So, my name is Kim. I am a master's intern with Georgia State University, specifically with student victim assistance. And I think it was a year ago, had the honor of meeting the one and only Kayla Peeples. Woo, woo, woo. Yes. So here I have with me Kayla, and if you don't mind taking a moment to just introduce yourself to the YouTube world and let us know who you are, who you're with, what you do, all the things, please.
So, hello everyone. I am Kayla, and I am the CDO, Human Trafficking Education and Outreach Coordinator at the Georgia Department of Driver Services. So, Georgia Department of Driver Services, if you're familiar with it, DDS, it's not really a DMV, but I know people, that name is very common. So, DDS actually has a federal grant funded human trafficking education and outreach program that whole mission and purpose is to educate and create awareness as it pertains to anti-human trafficking efforts and the prevention of human trafficking. So as a programs coordinator, I implement outreach, education, and awareness initiatives that focus on preventing human trafficking involving commercial motor vehicles.
That is amazing. And I have always called it a DMV. So I will probably forever and always call it that, but
DDS.
DDS. Okay, everybody,
DDS.
remember that from tonight. Before we jump into the hard-hitting questions, I do think some people want to know some things. So I have a series of round-robin questions that I did not prepare you for.
Okay.
So, all right, here we're going.
Okay.
So the people want to know, would you rather spend the day in the mountains or at the beach?
Beach.
Beach, okay.
I love tropical warm weather.
Okay.
Mountains, I don't know. I'm trying to get adventurous, beach sounds safe, but mountains are beautiful. Mountains are beautiful. Beach sounds very relaxing.
Yes, you can't really see what's happening in the mountains though from very far. So the beach is where it's at for me too. Would you rather have a salty snack or a sweet snack?
Sweet.
Sweet, yeah, me too. Okay.
In the words of my best friend's 6-year-old, I have a sugar tooth.
Not a sweet tooth, but a sugar tooth.
Yeah, I was like, sweet tooth? He was so cute. I have a sugar tooth.
Okay, so we've learned two things today. We've learned DDS and sugar tooth. That's all we need. That is all we need.
That's the end.
That's it.
Wrap up the week with DDS.
We're done. Well, again, I appreciate you being here. And I do want to jump into just a couple of different things. As we explained to the people before, you and I did become familiar with each other through our collaboration with the CJCC event. And if you don't mind, just taking a moment and just explaining to us, what does that even stand for? What does CJCC mean? How did you become affiliated with it? What does the CJCC even do for our community?
Okay, so I'm first going to start with how I became affiliated with CJCC. CJCC, 2 years ago, when I started as a CDO, Human Trafficking Education and Outreach Coordinator, the previous coordinator before me was a member of the CJCC Georgia Statewide Human Trafficking Task Force. So I just kind of carried that torch over. So I've been volunteering with CJCC on that task force for 2 years, where I currently co-chair Work Group 3, Deterring Traffickers and Buyers. CJCC, what does that mean? What does that stand for? It stands for Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. So we're just going to give a little introductory brief into what that is. So back in 1981, the Georgia General Assembly formed the CJCC, which is an executive branch agency. So think of CJCC as a multi-divisional agency in Georgia that administers a variety of state and federal grant programs that directly serve victims within the state. So some of those responsibilities, including the state and federal grant programs, think of developing criminal justice legislative and executive policy proposals. They administer the Crime Victims Emergency Fund, serve in an advisory capacity to the governor on issues that impact criminal justice system in our country. Currently, like $9.6 million dollars in grant funds to organizations and initiatives that address victim services, medical care, law enforcement response, training to address human trafficking. So aside from the funding, CJCC also houses and supports multiple state initiatives that include the Georgia Statewide Human Trafficking Task Force, which is how me and Kim met. So that's just a little emphasis on that. Going into my role with CJCC and how that came to be, I just mentioned that I've been co-chairing Work Group 3 for about 2 years. That is deterring traffickers and buyers. So under the Georgia Statewide Task Force that was launched in 2015, it takes a multidisciplinary approach in protecting the citizens of Georgia from perpetrators and systems of exploitation. So to break that down a little bit further, so with the task force, it addresses 5 elements of the human trafficking continuum: vulnerability, recruitment, exploitation, withdrawal, and reintegration. We talked about that in that presentation that we had not too long ago. So Work Group 3, the work group that I co-chair, that I'm a member of, we fall under recruitment, demand, traffickers, buyers. So we focus on demand, production, and that relationship, that supply and demand relationship business model that human trafficking is. So supply, victims, demand, buyers, distributors, suppliers, traffickers. And there are 9 work groups to choose from. So across the 5 elements, there are 9 work groups in the task force. And the task force is state, local, federal government, law enforcement, victim service providers, healthcare providers, non-governmental organizations. So think of like faith-based and educators, and we all collectively come together to enhance the state's anti-trafficking response.
So if you had any advice for a student that was looking to follow in a similar career path and interested in working in any type of transportation or any type of human trafficking involvement that isn't directly in a traditional sense, would you have any advice for them? Any student that's looking to make an impact in the way that you're making an impact?
So yeah, I would definitely highly recommend joining CJCC. Being a member of CJCC, in addition to my position, I'm able to network with just a diverse group of professionals, from law enforcement to faith-based to educators to professionals who work in child sexual assault, abuse, and how it all relates to sexual exploitation, also in the labor trafficking. So I would definitely suggest joining the statewide human trafficking task force. If you want to learn more, you can go to the website, cjcc.ga.gov, as that relates to that. Transportation, if you aren't familiar, a really big nonprofit in the transportation and anti-human trafficking field, Truckers Against Trafficking. Truck drivers, how many, living in Atlanta, how many trucks do we pass by on the way home, just to our day-to-day life? So think of how every single one of those truck drivers could possibly be trained on the red flags and indicators of trafficking. So there are so many opportunities. Street Grace, that's based in Georgia. Out of Darkness, Tapestry, so many I'm trying to think of. If you like working with children, Youth Spark. If you are a student and you want to learn more, there's an organization, Frontline Response. They have a volunteer team, like multiple days throughout the week. Weekly, they are doing outreach events throughout the week. So go to their website, sign up. They will also train you. There are many organizations that also provide free training if you're going to be doing outreach. And it's comprehensive, and it's great, and it's free. These are volunteering roles because it is needed. You are needed. The more that we can have in the field, trained on human trafficking, breaking down those myths and false information, and just being more aware of what the red flags are and how to combat human trafficking. Okay, so the difference between a victim and a survivor. So with victim, they're currently being victimized, a person who has been subjected to a crime, physical, emotional, financial. So in a legal context, that definition is necessary within the criminal justice system. So like a law enforcement, prosecutors may use victims in their line of work. When we think of survivor, think of someone who has exited their situation, is on the road to recovery. They may recognize their strength, and now they are toward healing in the aftermath of a traumatic experience. So what we talked about in that presentation that we had that you were a part of, human trafficking is very complex and layered, but also when we're talking about the domestic violence as well, sexual assault. So these things are similar. And victims, due to their unique trauma, can be complex as well. So victim that has been victimized can not see themselves as a victim or even realizing their situation is exploitive or abusive, or they find themselves trapped in that cycle of fear, coercion, or fraud. So one of the things that's very important to note about these words, that while they are both important, and in some cases they are used interchangeably, you want the individual who has experienced a crime to choose how they want to be identified and not feel that they are being labeled.
Kayla, thank you so much for the wealth of knowledge. It truly feels as though at least I have a better understanding of just the unique pieces that live within our community to combat the serious issues that exist in our society, in our world at the micro, mezzo, and macro level, that I myself have not even been aware of until I started in this field of practice, but now I'm even more privy to. And I appreciate what you are doing. I appreciate the knowledge that you brought to my practice in terms of getting my master's, what you're bringing to this interview, and what you're bringing to the Panthers. As we put this out on our YouTube channel. This will not be the last time, Panthers, that you hear from Kayla Peeples. So I do hope and plan to have Kayla back with more of her knowledge. You can check her out also on our Blue Table Safety Talks for our CJCC events on human trafficking. But until next time, thank you so much, Kayla, for being a part of this coffee chat exclusive.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was great. Thank you.